Well, folks, we've finally gotten around to it. The most recent Mega Man game so far. And this is the game that has that has inspired me to create this entire Mega Man retrospective in the first place. And for starters, we're greeted with an intro cutscene. And it has voice acting, like Mega Man 8, except good for once. And it's not actually terrible like in Mega Man 8, so yay, we're off to a good start. If you ask me, this game has some pretty good voice acting for once.
Thank you, everyone.
And this game is finally here. It's gonna be spectacular as I go into it. One thing I should say is that the title screen music has now become my third favorite title screen music in the entire classic series. I'm serious, it is that good. Get ready to listen to it. But I have a confession to make. You see, this game isn't as good as I thought it would be. It was better. So thus, this is the Mississippi King welcoming y'all back to my next LP, Let's Play Mega Man 11. Now before we start, I'd suggest heading into the options menu to adjust the audio and to fix the controls. The sound effects and voices can drown out the music, which is a shame, but whatever. Anyway, as for the controls, now you actually get a slide button and a charge shot button, a rapid shot button, I mean. And that's pretty convenient. But you may wonder why I'm getting rid of the quick select buttons, and that's because there's something that has come to replace it that is even better than the quick select button. We'll talk more about the controls later, but for now let's actually get around to starting a new game, and I'm going to be playing on newcomer mode. No, I'm just kidding. Of course I wouldn't do that. I'm not that bad. So let's waste no time and get right to it.
The year is 20XX, at the laboratory of Thomas Light, father of modern robot society. Many hard-working robots have arrived for their annual maintenance checkup.
All systems nominal.
And since this game has voice acting, I won't have to voice all of the characters. Thank goodness. I don't know if I could handle that. That is all the voice acting. Well, I mean, I will have to read up a few things because, well, the info cards are going to be different because I'm not actually going to be using info cards. Sort of. I mean, I am going to put up some info, but most of it, however, will be read from the robot master, the gallery in this game. So in fact, the information on these robot masters actually comes from this game itself. These cutscenes are actually pretty cool, I must admit that. I do actually like the cutscenes. And so, as you can see, Dr. Wily is now here, and also, one thing that NCS pointed out in the first part of his Mega Man 11 LP is that the chicken in the microwave, there's actually a chicken in the microwave right where Wily is right about now. That's one of them things where it's once you see it, you can't unsee it. It's now I can't help but notice it whenever I see these cutscenes. And that's one of the things that I think this game does well. I mean, I won't sit here and say that this story is incredible or anything, but it's certainly a lot better than many of the others in the series, and this is one thing that's really unusual. You actually get to see the Robot Masters before they turn evil. Well, before they're converted by Dr. Wily. And so, that's kind of interesting. That does add some stakes. I mean, not a lot, but it's still better than nothing. And this game has often been compared to, like, Mighty Number 9 with how it contrasts with Mighty Number 9. I haven't really played Mighty Number 9, but suffice it to say, it made a lot of people cry like an anime ban on prom night. That will go down in history as one of the stupidest lines for any marketing thing ever.
Wily's invention is called
That's
the
like,
double gear
wow!
system.
You demonstrated utter ignorance of your audience with that line. Like, who did they think was going to play this game? Like, I mean Mighty Number 9, that is. But suffice it to say, this game is amazing, and it may just make the people who advertised Mighty Number 9 to cry like an anime fan on prom night. But yes, I won't have to voice any of the characters, and thank goodness it's actually good voice acting this time. I cannot say the same about the previous attempts at voice acting. In fact, it's not unusual for this series to have terrible voice acting, but I'll talk more about that if and when I get to the X series. But yeah, the double gear system is really neat. Basically, how the double gear system works is that you have two gears, a speed gear and a power gear, and the former allows you to slow down time and basically get a bullet time view of your surroundings. It also slows you down to some extent without an upgrade, but it can be very useful. I would argue more useful than the power gear, but I don't know. Anyway, here are our 8 robot masters. We have Blockman, Acid Man, Blast Man, Bounce Man, Tundra Man, Impact Man, Torch Man, and Fuse Man. So I'm actually going to tackle Bounce Man first. Basically, the power gear, as I was saying, is that it basically allows you to shoot 2 charge shots instead of 1, and it basically, well, does as it says, it powers up your abilities. Now that may seem like it's not that useful, but the key for it is that it can also be used on your special weapons. And that can definitely make it a lot more useful than you may think. And so, you can actually use it to power up things like the various special weapons you get, and it will allow them to use alternate abilities. This is sort of like what you can do in the Mega Man X games, where you're allowed to charge your special weapons. But it's a bit different because, like, well, I mean, just like that, it also causes your special weapons to eat up more weapon energy, so use it with caution. That's my advice. But here we're in Bounce Man's stage, and well, I don't get why a lot of people, I mean, I kind of do get why a lot of people may not like this stage, but personally I do not agree. For starters, I absolutely love the music to this place, and that's one thing that I feel I should mention. The music to this game is pretty great. Like, it was composed by Marika Suzuki, and, well, hats off to her. She not only made my number one, my second, or actually my third favorite title theme music in the series, but also my number one favorite Wily theme in the series. Oh yes, that's right. I think that it's actually managed to surpass Wily's Stage 1 and 2 from Mega Man 2. I'll talk more about that when we actually get to that, but suffice it to say it's really amazing. And this track is one of the rare tracks that is so good that it actually kind of manages to put a smile to my face every time I hear it. I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm some sort of grumpy curmudgeon or whatever, but still, I don't often see music that's that good. But this stage is also fairly long, and that's one thing that this game has received criticism for, is that these stages are often too long. I would disagree. I think these stages are just about the right length. None of them either go by too quickly or overstay their welcome. And you may think that, oh, you said that, Mega Man 5 stages often went by too quickly. And, well, the thing with that is that I actually really enjoy this game's stages. They're a lot funner than the ones in Mega Man 5. And so, yes, I am giving it a pass just over that. It's not petty, I insist, because, you see, with Mega Man 5, it's like, if the game's stages are kind of dull, then ones that drag are not going to be... they're going to be more painful than if this stage is fun to begin with. And so, yes, I am giving it a pass just because of that. So, I do enjoy these stages, and none of them feel too short or too long, well, with the exception to the two final Wily's stages, but we'll get to that when we get to that. I mean, I'll just say that, this game does kind of end a bit too abruptly, and it's kind of one of the shorter Mega Man games in terms of overall number of stages. Which is a bit disappointing, but I'll talk more about that later. And one thing that you can also do, you can slide and charge your shot. The slide and charge shot are both back. Hooray for that. It's about time they returned. And, you know, I get that, Mega Man 9 and 10 were trying to, make it feel old like Mega Man 2. But still, that's not the right way to do things. Instead, this game gives you back your charge shot and slide. And as such, it's very useful, and it comes in handy quite a bit. Unfortunately, it's the good charge shot from Mega Man 4, from the Classic series, and not the abused charge shot from the X series. I mean, I'll talk more about that, about the X series, if and when I get to that, but suffice it to say, they really overused the charge shot in that series. And, well, you can also change weapons, just like in before, the quick select is back. But there's something that I'll talk about more in depth that will come later. There's something else. I think this game's controls are just as, well, no, they're not just as good as the 8-bit games, I think this game has the best controls in the entire series. Yes, I said it, because they feel so tight, responsive, and precise. It's like there's never an action that feels like that you didn't mean to do something. It's like, if you screw up, it's entirely your fault. Because the controls are just so fine-tuned and so good. And it's another reason I say that the controls are so good is because of that way you can switch weapons that I'll be covering later on. Like, in the next episode I'll be talking about that, but for now, we're actually approaching the boss. I suppose one thing I can say about this stage is that, well, there's very little middle ground between me spending a long time at the certain bouncy sections. Actually, that's one thing. This place kind of reminds me of Springman's stage. In fact, when I was playing through it the first time, I couldn't help but think, Springman! This is Springman's stage, or it's like Springman's stage. And there's very little middle ground between me taking forever at certain bouncy points and just blazing right through them. And one thing I should say is that this game was actually titled Rockman 11 Gears of Fate in Japan. Oh, sorry. Rockman 11 Gears of Fate, exclamation mark, because of course you gotta add that exclamation mark in the titles of the Mega Man games. I don't know why, you just gotta do that for some reason. But anyway, we're reaching Bounce Man himself, and he's actually a pretty neat boss fight. Like, you remember when I said the Square Machine, the boss of Cossack Stage 2 in Mega Man 4, was a boss that just felt right? Well, in this game, that's all of the Robot Masters. I am serious. But anyway.
Bounce Man was developed as a crash test robot, but his incredible stretching and bouncing abilities led him to become an instructor at the indoor athletics facility, Boing Boing Park. Innocent and optimistic, he can't help bouncing around in joy no matter the situation. He tends to accidentally bounce into people and send them flying, making him a bit of a nuisance. His fitness lessons at Boing Boing Park are a new style of exercise that he calls Hoxercise. It's like boxing, but on trampolines. It's surprisingly popular with middle-aged women. His funny looks and big round body are a hit with the kids, making Bounce Man a household name. Manufacturer, Joint R&D, Rebound Rubber, and Momo's Robot Farm.
Also, if I sound different, that's because I'm using a different audio setup. Please tell me whether this makes me sound any better, whether it makes my voice, like, not robot as much, and I just straight up died right there. That's a bit embarrassing. But, yeah, I would like to hear how well whether I sound any good. Please do tell me that. And, one thing that I should say that I forgot to mention is that, you can actually use both gears at once, it's called the double gear technique. However, you can only use that when you have low energy, so it's really only like a final move that like allows you to shoot a super powerful charge shot. It does a ridiculous amount of damage. However, you have to let it overheat, you can't just turn it off, and it slows down everything around you and lets you shoot this super powerful charge shot. And when it overheats, not only can you not use the double gear system, which is what happens when it normally overheats, with either the speed gear or the power gear, but you also can only shoot one small pellet at a time on screen. And you can't charge your shot until it cools off. But anyway, the weapon we get is the bounce ball, and this is the best weapon demonstration screen of all time in the entire Mega Man series, because this time it actually lets you play around with the weapon before you go out into stages. This is awesome, and I hope they keep this for future Mega Man games. This is so amazing that you actually get a chance to get a feel for it. And one more thing, I will be using the double gear system. Like, this isn't going to be like a double gear, like a gearless run or whatever, but I am still going to be keeping it to a minimum, because it's like, I don't want to like completely neglect it. I mean, it's the big thing about this game, the double gear system, but, well, I mean, I guess that's it for this video, folks. Join me next time when we tackle some more Robot Masters. Starting with, like, I guess Acid Man or something. See y'all then. This is the Mississippi King, signing out.